We wanted to come on today. We'll kind of start over. First of all, I'm Carrie, Kenny's wife and business partner, and this is Brad Grissom. Brad has worked with Kenny for years.
Yeah,
years and years,
years.
And he helps run the Speed Therapy Academy for Kenny. And he also does Cars and Coffee behind the scene. So anyway, today we wanted to just give a little overview of Kenny's life and just kind of memorialize him. And Brad, why don't you tell him a little bit about what you put together a while ago? This was done about 6-7 months ago, I think.
Yeah, so quite some time ago, what was last year, we had Kenny sit down and basically tell the story of his career. So there was about 3 sessions that we did. We started at the beginning, kind of in his younger days and when he was getting into cars, and then we went into his years in Omaha, and then finally some years in Indianapolis and some of his great accomplishments, as well as a few stories. So I clipped everything together. The presentation's about 45 minutes long. It's something that has been unseen. A lot of people have heard some of these stories, but we've never been able to compile it together in one sort of show. So that's what we're going to play today, and it'll give you a good idea of Kenny's life in the car world and in the racing industry, and I hope everyone enjoys it.
So, and before we start the show that it's going to be Kenny talking, so which is really cool. I just want to let you know what people are asking. Well, Cars and Coffee has been on replay. What's going to happen to Cars and Coffee with Kenny Brown? Well, it's going to continue on. We're playing this, and then in a couple of weeks, Brad and I will be coming on, and we are going to be interviewing people that knew Kenny for the first 3 months. And then after that, we're going to be interviewing people from the industry. And while we're interviewing, so Cars and Coffee format will be like this. We'll have an interview, and then we'll have some replays of Kenny teaching something. So hopefully you'll follow along with that. It should be pretty interesting. And we're really looking forward to do that. I know this is what Kenny would want to do. He was planning on bringing interviews into Cars and Coffee anyway, so we'll just carry on from there. Brad, are we going to come on at the end?
Yeah, we can come on at the end.
We'll come on at the end. And if you don't have time to watch this whole thing, it will be on YouTube. Because I know it's Saturday morning, and it'll be posted on YouTube probably sometime this week.
Yes, yeah. So the live presentation that we're doing today will be on Facebook for life, but I'll take the video and then I'll load it onto YouTube and I'll make it public so that everybody in YouTube land can see.
But anyway, before we do that, just thank you for everybody that's been reaching out to us and to me. Really appreciate it. It's been obviously a hard loss to myself personally and to the business and to the whole Mustang community. It's amazing what reach he had. And anyway, we really appreciate your sympathy and your condolences. So anyway, Brad, before I start crying, let's go.
Yep. Okay. So you know how to run the machine here.
Oops.
You have to go over there, I think. And then we click play.
Okay. See, you know how to do more than I do.
And can someone...
My education in this industry came from sleeping in the back of a Dodge van going from racetrack.
Okay, we'll start over here. And once Kenny comes on, Joe...
My education
can you let us know if
in
there's
this
sound?
industry came from sleeping in the back of a Dodge van going from racetrack to racetrack with my trusty toolbox. My family was in manufacturing. We manufactured fire door hardware in Philadelphia. We lived actually out in the suburbs, not too far from Valley Forge. But my dad, his sister, his brother-in-law were in the business, and before that, my grandfather was in the business. So we'd always been in manufacturing, but I was the only car person. Nobody else. Of course, one of my grandfathers claims he was a mechanic, but my mother says he's blowing smoke. So, but that's pretty much as far as it goes. Yeah, I'm the only car guy. And like I say, I learned everything on my own. I mean, completely self-taught. When I was a youngster in high school, I kind of got started by changing the spark plugs on the family station wagon. And then I kept dinking with cars. I mean, my grandfather bought me a Ford Falcon that didn't run. It needed an oil pump. So I figured out how to put an oil pump in, and then I just kept working on it. And then I started working on other cars. After school, I worked at one point for a sports car dealership that had Sunbeam and MG and a bunch of others. And I got all the crappy jobs. And, that was, I just really like sports cars. And then I also had a job at Fritz Ohl's doing parts and running cars, which has always been around cars. And then I went off to college for all the wrong reasons and kept working on cars. I mean, I just couldn't stop, get away from working on cars because they're just so intuitive to me and logical. I figure things out pretty easily. And then at one point, I decided to, I was in college in Denison, Iowa. Then we moved to Omaha, and I went to University of Nebraska, Omaha for a while. But I kept working on cars, and I just, I got really bored with college. I was having a hard time holding my interest because it's so boring. And then I was working at, I think, a Fiat dealership in sales and a couple other, like foreign cars. So, going back to what really kind of put me forward is, I can't remember the year, maybe 67, I think, or 66 maybe. Me and my buddies were at Watkins Glen, and I got to see my boyhood hero, Jimmy Clark, win the U.S. Grand Prix. And Jimmy Clark was Scottish, and I'm Scottish, so he was like my all-time hero. And then, being in a Formula One race when you're in high school, the sights, the sounds, the smells, I mean, it was just intoxicating. And I just, from that point on, I wanted to be in racing, but it kind of took me a while to get into it. So I just started my own sports car shop. And it was called Mini Sport, and it, grew all the way up into the early 80s. And it was the shop where people would go when somebody else couldn't figure out what was wrong, or somebody else screwed up their cars. I was like ranked the best in Omaha for a foreign car repair 3 years in a row, which was pretty good, I thought. And then I worked on all kinds of stuff, a lot of British sports cars, MGs, Triumphs, in fact, all through the years of those cars, a lot of Fiats, and let's see, also back then it was Datsun. I did a bunch of 240Zs where we'd put like 3 side draft Webers on them and headers, and it just, we really woke them up. So, I mean, I've always been, just into sports cars. Now, when I had my shop, did my own racing. I got my first regional and national corner workers license. And then, one winter, the opportunity came along to somebody was selling a Formula V at a pretty reasonable price. So, I bought a Formula V and started racing. I think my first race was at, the track's not there anymore. It's MAR, Mid-America Raceway, which is just west of St. Louis. It was a gorgeous track. I mean, it had everything. It had a big straightaway. It had hills. It had trees, big elevation changes. So that was my first. And then for the most part, I did in Midwest. We lived in Omaha. The Midwest series was tracks like Hutchinson, Kansas, Lake something in near Wichita. We went up to Brainerd. We went to Blackhawk and MAR quite a bit. There's a couple other Lake Garnett. And there was another temporary track. I can't remember. It's been too long. And then I did some. I had another guy who he got a Formula Ford, so I did all the work on the Formula Ford, and then I drove that a few times too. And then I started working on other people's cars. We did an interesting thing is Dwayne, a friend of mine who was actually a police officer, bought a Ford Atlantic, a really nice RT1, and we looked after that. And I mean, he just a gentleman racer. He just wanted to go out there and drive. And I think at Hallett, one year. We were at Hallett, and Dorsey Schroeder was there. And a lot of people know Dorsey Schroeder from not only from racing, but from commentating. And there was a young Japanese guy that had a brand new, really expensive Formula Atlantic car that he got like big money behind him. He's just gone track to track to track all around the country. And him and Dorsey were racing pretty close because Dorsey had been national championship in Atlantic like multiple times. And so Dwayne qualified third, right behind them. But it's kind of cool the way it worked out. On one day, Dorsey, on the first first race, on Saturday, Dorsey's car overheated, and the Japanese guy had kind of like a spin or something. And, Dwayne ended up winning the race. Didn't even know he won the race till we told him. And then for the second race on Sunday, Dorsey was on the pole, and the Japanese kid, they take off, and Dorsey, went really wide on one corner and drove off the track, and the Japanese kid drove off right behind him, and then Dwayne went sailing by, and he won that race. So kind of weird stories. I mean, you don't have to be the fastest car to win races. But then I started looking after other people's cars. It seemed like when I went racing, it cost me money. And when I worked on other people's cars and made their cars competitive, I made money. So, economics sort of dictated the direction from there on out. But I still would race when I can. But, like I say, it was more profitable to work on other people's cars and put them on track. In fact, one of my customers actually won the regional championship. I can't remember what year in Formula V. He was pretty happy with that. And then I guess in the mid 80s, I got really bored with it, and that was a point in time where interest rates were like over the moon. I mean, they're like 20% interest rates at the bank, and cars were changing, and I was going to have to get some new equipment, and I just couldn't imagine borrowing a whole bunch of money at really high interest rates for this new equipment. And I was really getting bored with them. I really loved the racing, but I was getting bored with the whole streetcar business. So I just kind of all my bills were paid, and I just decided to take some time off. So a friend of mine sort of borrowed the name, and he set up shop somewhere else. And then I just started doing like some freelance stuff. And then I can't remember what year it was. I went up to Road America and was worked for the Skip Barber driving school. And during the week, I was the shop foreman that kept all the cars running. They're all Formula V's. And then on about every other weekend, there was the Barber Racing Series, Midwest Racing Series. And at that point, I was a crew chief, and I managed a bunch of part-time people, and I think 12 or 14 cars. So that was a lot of fun. After Skip Barber was based obviously at Road America, and there was the Midwest Pro Series for Sports 2000s. And Sports 2000s are they look like a small open cockpit prototype car, and they ran the Ford 2-liter overhead cam motor, and they had a Pro Series, so it went between Road America and Mid Ohio, and they were kind of a support race for all the big races. And so the March people from the UK, DB Motorsports, they based their cars at Road America for Andy Blank, who was a big Budweiser distributor down in Florida somewhere. So we had the 2 cars there. So I would help. We only had one mechanic, so after work and on weekends, I would help him maintain the cars and stuff. And we get that program kind of grew. And interesting. And that was an exciting note. I mean, Andy Blank ended up finishing. He had a couple of lap records, and he ended up finishing second in the Pro Series 2 years in a row. So I mean, the cars were pretty good. But he decided he wanted to try big time racing. So he put a deal together for a prototype in IMSA back then, and it was actually a Spice. Spice brought a car over, and then they put the program together. And Dave, my partner in the DV Motorsports, was contracted to work on that team. So I kind of went along with that. Went along with them doing little stuff. And who Andy had for co-drivers were Michael Andretti and John Andretti. So that was kind of cool, but kind of different. I mean, it was a rude awakening for Andy. Just like I said, the AE guys going into pro motorsports. I mean, Andy would do his stint, and he'd get out of the car, and he'd be sweating, and he'd look just completely beat. John Andretti would do his stint. He'd get out of the car, and he'd look fresh as a daisy. So there's a big difference between club racing and pro racing. But yeah, I was after that, after Barber, and then the year after that, we actually won the SEC runoffs in Sports 2000, won that championship. And then we got a customer from Chicago that said he was a great driver, had great engines, and a lot of money. Push came to shove, and none of that was true. None of those, not even a one, came true. So he ran out of money pretty quick, and he crashed the car twice. So, but anyway, I was the U.S. contact point for March Sports 2000's service center parts. I did that for a couple of years, and then it was a really, really good lesson in the business of motorsports. We had the March cars that we had were by far the best cars. They're superior to all the other cars racing. I mean, they were narrower. They had less frontal area. The suspension was designed by the guys at March, who at that time were building sports cars, Indy cars, and Formula One cars. In fact, some of the same pieces on this March Sport 2000 came off of like their Formula 2 cars. And so it was a great car. It was a really great car. But the other two major brands, Taiga and Lola, had far better financed, had better marketing. I mean, Lola was handled by them by Carl Haas, which was like, God in motorsports. And we had the best car, but we didn't have as good a marketing. So I mean, it just on the business side, we just were having a hard time, getting customers, even though the customers that had the cars loved them. So that was just a lesson that, again, not having the best product doesn't always guarantee market success. So yeah, that was fun. I really enjoyed that. I mean, those are cool cars. And then after that, I went back to, we were living in Omaha at the time. I went back to Omaha and was still bored. And then somebody came to me that said, you need to talk to these guys. They're building McLaren replicas. They were building replicas of the McLaren coupes. And they needed somebody. They had some cars go on. They needed somebody that could finish the cars. So I went to work for them for a while. But when I got there and saw the cars, I mean, they were a mess. Whoever did the original engineering just had no clue in how to make a car work. I mean, everything was wrong. And the only way to really fix it was to start over, and they didn't have the money to do that. I mean, it was so wrong that they had one car out that they had somebody won a contest on, but the brakes were they didn't work. And when I got it in and started looking at it, and they had it backwards. They had the master cylinder, they had the rear brakes hooked to the front and the front brakes hooked to the back, and the car wouldn't stop. So I got that. That was pretty easy fix, and then used the bias adjuster to get the balance right. So, but I mean, it was just, I couldn't see it going anywhere, because I mean, it was going to be too hard to make the cars really work good. So then another friend of mine, who's a doctor, was importing these tube frame cars from the UK called a Cougar with a K. And essentially they came over, and it was a big tubular sports car with a center body and like the bicycle fender over the tires. And what it was is they shipped the chassis over, but to complete it, you had to get a Jaguar and take the Jaguar apart and use all the Jaguar running gear, rear suspension, front suspension, engine, transmission, was all Jaguar, or Jaguar, as they say. And I did that. I built him a couple cars, but for him, it was just a hobby. I mean, you know, he would like to see it turn into a business, but you know, he didn't have the wherewithal or the money to put into marketing. So that kind of just, you know, I was doing that just for him and working on a couple of the cars in his place. And then he was out in California for some sort of conference, and he had an extra day out there. So he was partnerships in a Ford dealership at the time with I think his brother-in-law. And they went, and he was out there, and he'd seen an article in one of the magazines about this guy, Celine, that was building Mustangs. So he stopped by to see him. And when he did, he found out that Celine had just gotten his cars homologated for the SCCA Pro Racing Endurance Series. It was called the Escort Series back then. And he wanted to go racing and didn't know what to do or where to go next. So, you know, Dan and I put a little money into it to build the first car. And because it was, we did the deal like the Long Beach Grand Prix, and the first race was less than a month away. So we actually built the car at Fred's shop up in Sacramento, because the first race was Sears Point, which is, you know, not too far from Sacramento. So we kind of threw that car together, and it was, you know, the first race was really, from our end, really kind of a cluster. Everybody running around in circles, but nevertheless, I mean, the car did pretty well. It did well enough that Steve got a little more money. General Tire was the major sponsor. Steve got a little more money on General Tire. And after we did Sears Point and then Portland, and then we shipped we did really well at Portland. That's when we did a lot better at Portland than we did at Sears Point. And then Steve got some more money to build another car. And so we shipped the first car back to Omaha, where my shop is, and then we got another new car, and we turned that into the second race car. And then we, you know, pretty much did the season. I knew at that point, I knew nothing about sedan racing. You know, it's to me that real race cars didn't have doors, because I'd always worked on open wheel cars, formula cars, prototype cars, you know, like real race cars. And so it was a big learning experience for me, going endurance racing, which I'd never really done before. And, you know, racing a Mustang with General tires against Porsche on Goodyear tires was a kind of an uphill challenge. But, you know, I figured things out. So what I did, we always tried to get close to the best team that year in our class, the GT class, with the Porsches. So we tried to get close to them, not only in the pits, in the paddock, but in the pits. And I just watched everything they did, you know, and I just kind of, you know, if you want to do something better, learn from the people that are the best. So we kind of like paid attention to them. And in August of '86, we ended up winning the 24 Hours of Canada with our backup car, because the primary car got crashed out about 4 o'clock in the morning, I think. And the second car was running, I can't remember, either third or fourth. And it was pretty wounded. It had a Desiree in either practice or qualifying had kind of gotten into the turn one wall, and we didn't know it at the time, but it cracked the fuel tank, and it undid the little pocket in there that the fuel pump sits in. It broke that loose, so the fuel pump was moving back and forth. So we could only get maybe an hour, no, not an hour, about 25 minutes, 30 minutes tops, where we should be getting 45 to 50 minutes, which meant just a whole bunch more pit stops. And when you're doing a pit stop, you're not making laps. And if you're not making laps, you know, that's the whole thing in endurance racing. So you don't want to be in the pit, you want to be on the track. So we just, through strategy, I mean, the car was hurt, but through some, I would call some skillful strategy, we brought it from third up to first, and won the race with it, which was, I thought, a pretty major accomplishment, especially since the car, you know, was in such bad shape. But the one thing in that race that I think clinched the win is in the middle of the night, the team that was down track next to us down track in the pits were absolutely rank novice amateurs. I mean, it was almost comical watching them, you know, try to do their pit stops. and they had one driver that was just completely overwhelmed with the red mist. And, you know, he was on the pit wall ready to go, and he jumps into his car and hooks up his seat belts, turns it on, and drives off with the gas thing still hooked on. So he pulled the entire fuel rig into pit lane. And I was under, Desiree was in, we were doing a pit stop with Desiree at that point, and I was actually under the back of the car adjusting the brakes. The 86 cars had drum brakes. You know, racing with drum brakes was not very exciting. So about I can't remember what it was, maybe 2 or 3 pit stops, I'd have to slide into the back of the car with my little tool and adjust the brakes. I had it all set up so I could do it pretty fast. And I was under there and I saw what happened. I just screamed, "Get her out of here." And I rolled out from under the car just as it came down. She kind of just barely went through the puddle of gas, which is all over pit lane. And she got out, and just the second she was across that gas, they closed the pits, or closed pit lane. So nobody could make pit stops. Everybody just had to, run around under a yellow flag. So if I hadn't gotten her out, then we'd have been stuck there it was a good, I'm gonna say, 20 minutes or so before they got all that gas cleaned up. And that would have really put us down. So that was kind of a good call, I thought. But that was, the 24 Hours of Canada in the GT class is no small feat. But most of the races in the SCCA Pro Series were long. The shortest race were 6 hours. And anytime we do a 6-hour race, I mean, I couldn't believe it was over. When you're really geared up for 12-hour and 24-hour races, little 6-hour races are like nothing. In fact, you didn't even get to do much strategy; you just had to run like hell. And so what we did, I mean, we came away pretty good in '86. I think we ended up being second in the championship. I can't remember. In '86, I was really tight with the engineers in the Ford X Garage where they do all the R&D work, and that group was Mustang, T-Bird, and Mark 7, maybe Mark 8. And I got to know a lot of them, and we were working pretty close on parts and developing the cars. And this one guy, Mike Jones, was in their suspension part. And, we got talking, and we started talking about how the Mustangs didn't want to turn very well. I mean, they didn't turn well, and the back of the car got loose. So I was talking with Mike, and he started running some scenarios in geometry, front suspension geometry. We talk about moving this point, that point, and we really couldn't do a lot, but other than talk about it, because it was supposed to be, quote, production racing. So what happened is we went into '87. I mean, we really had a much better front suspension geometry figured out. But again, if you start whacking on holes, you can't move any of the points, suspension points. You start whacking on holes, and the tech guys are going to notice it right away. So one day I get this phone call that there's some parts for me out at the airport, one of the air freight places. So I go out there, and here's like a small plane, and sitting on the ground are 3 brand new K members out of the factory with no holes in them whatsoever. They're totally virgin K members. So packed them up and took them back to the shop, and I sent everybody home early. And knowing what I knew, what we've worked at with Mike, I spent all night putting holes in 3 K members. And when people came in the morning, there was 3 K members on the bench, all painted, and they looked just like they came out of the factory. But every single hole had been moved to improve the geometry. So that was kind of cool. And then that's kind of like started my AGS, Advanced Geometry Suspension Systems. That was like AGS 1.0. But going into '87, we never stopped through the winter. We kept working on things, and there was a bunch of stuff on the '86 cars that I made a whole list of things for Steve from an engineering standpoint that need to be changed for '87. One of the things was strut tower brace. In '86 at Road Atlanta, we showed up with a 3-point strut tower brace on both cars because we really needed to get settle down the front end, so we wouldn't get as much chassis twist and we get better handling. And the SCCA came up and said, well, you can run it for this race, but don't bring it back because that's not part of the production cars. So needless to say, in '87, we built 3-point strut tower braces for the Celine production cars so we could run them on the race cars. And then the other thing that we did was jacking rails, where we, had tubing across the pinch weld. So because we were doing a lot of pit stops, I mean, you need to be able to get the car up really fast. So with the jacking rails, it was really easy to get the car up. Plus, we could put jack stands under there, which was pretty clever. But SCCA comes out, no, that has an additional chassis stiffening device. So we actually had to take hacksaw and cut these little tiny grooves in 2 different spots to break it into thirds, so that it was not considered the tube was considered as running the entire length. In '87, I didn't say a thing, it didn't bother us. So what the difference was, I don't know. But in '87, we built the strut tower braces on all the Celine Mustangs, and we worked through the winter, and we worked really hard through the winter. And we did is the first race was going to be at Sears Point. And then what Steve did is he talked General Tire into, this was maybe 2 weeks, 4 weeks ahead, into renting Sears Point for a weekend so we could do some testing. And what he sold General Tire on is they could use that to get a lot of filming done. They could, because they always had a film crew, so they could do filming at Sears Point without all the other cars there. But what that did, that gave us a chance to do 2 days of testing and really get the cars figured out and sorted. And we just, when it came race time, we showed up and we won Sears Point, and we went up to Portland. We won Portland. And then I think the next race was Brainerd maybe. And the problem was after two long races, and the cars needed to be kind of fixed up a little bit. And I put a list into Steve on what we're going to do and how much it was going to take. And we only got a fraction. He only sent about a fraction of the money it was going to take to get the cars really ready to go again. So we patched them back together and went to Brainerd, and we did lousy. We had problems with the cars and it just didn't go well. And afterwards, Steve came up to me and said, well, what went wrong? And I said, what went wrong is we didn't have any good parts. So after that, we got better on our allocation for maintaining the cars. Never really what I wanted, but better enough to make the cars go. And then we kind of just, I won't say dominated. We dominated the first part of the series, but then as the season moves on, everybody starts getting better and better. So I mean, if you can win the first couple races out of the box, you're going to get ahead of everybody as they catch up. So we just, drove the daylights out of the cars. And we had, a couple of cool things. We ended up building 3 cars. And the first car was Steve and Rick. The second car was Desiree and Lisa. And then the third car would always be guest drivers. At Mid-Ohio and Sebring, I can't remember another one, we had Pernelli Jones and George Fulmer in the third car, which was a hoot. I've got some really good stories about those guys. They're definitely kind of a different piece of cloth when it comes to racing. So, we ran the cars hard, and Porsche caught up, and it was getting nip and tuck, and we got down to the last race of the season, which was a 12-hour race at Sebring, which is just like any other Sebring race. It starts in the afternoon and it goes into the night. And we had a problem with Steve's car, the lead car. And that race was driven by Steve, Rick, and Scott Pruitt. In fact, Scott also drove for us at Mosport in '87. So we had the rear end went out. And so we ended up having to swap out the entire rear end at night in the dark, in the rain, and we lost, I think, 15, 20 minutes. So, we were behind, and by that time, we had 3 of the championships wrapped up. And I can't remember what the 4th one was, but we needed to win we needed to get enough points ahead of Porsche to win the final championship, to make a clean sweep. but having that car in the pits for so long really put us behind. And it got down to in the last hour of the race. I mean, Steve was just, man, he was just a nervous wreck because we really were working hard to get that car up. And it got down to the last little bit. And Parnelli Jones was in the third car, and he either turned the radio off or it broke, or guessing he turned it off because he just likes to drive. And we kept putting pit signs out, and he didn't know what we needed to do. We needed to stop that car so that the other car could make enough laps to get ahead of it. And by doing that, then we'd win the 4th championship. So he wouldn't answer the radio. We had pit signs out. So, I mean, this is getting like right down to the very end. So we went to the SCCA and we said, we think there's a mechanical problem that could be dangerous. Can you black flag him? I thought that was pretty clever. So yeah, they black flagged him. It took like 3 laps for him to see the black flag, but he finally came in, and it was like really close to the end. So what we did is we sent somebody all the way down to the beginning of pit lane and stopped them there, so he did not cross the start finish line. So that lap didn't count. And we really got lucky in the final minutes. The Porsche in the upper class, that was the main class. The Corvette crossed the start finish line something like 15, 20 seconds before the 6 hours. So I had to make an entire another lap. So by having to make an entire another lap, that was 1 lap we needed to get ahead of the other car, and won all 4 championships. So that was, it was I could do lots of stories on that season. But I mean, it was, Steve and I were kind of at odds the whole year. But early on, I knew that I could see that there was pieces in place to win a championship, and winning championships is not easy. It's really hard. So I stuck it out, and we kind of stuck it out together. But at the end of the season, I mean, I told him initially that I'd try to win him a championship in 3 years, and we ended up doing 4 championships in 2 years. So it's kind of like, okay, job done. And I just I was tired. I was broke between April and October. In fact, October 31st was the last race, Halloween. I only had 1 day off, and our typical days were 14 hours. So I was beat. I mean, I was literally beat. In fact, at Sebring, I was so sick from exhaustion and everything else that I had to go to one of the emergency rooms in Sebring, and the doctor gave me a huge shot of antibiotics in my butt, and then some other pills, so I could make it through the race the next day, which I did. In fact, if we ever find the videos, my voice is so squeaky you can hardly understand me. But yeah, at that point, Steve and I, went our separate ways. And he moved this operation up to Detroit, and I was looking around for another racing deal. But it's what I discovered. What Steve taught me is there's a much bigger market in the performance aftermarket. So shortly after I think maybe October, November, somebody turns up at my door with a Mustang and says, "Hey, can you fix my Mustang like those?" Well, yeah, that's pretty easy. We've been doing a lot. We probably had between the 2 years, maybe close to 100,000 miles of racing and testing in the Mustangs. So yeah, pretty much knew what to do. So he showed up, and another week somebody else showed up, and then the Mustang just started showing up. So that's when we decided to sort of shift from a racing program to a performance street market, because it's just so much bigger. And I got a lot more sleep doing that way. So one thing led to another, and we ended up being, one of the leaders in Mustang parts from there on out. I mean, the number of parts that we were first in the market with, the list is really extensive. Axle brackets, everybody has axle brackets these days. So we brought axle brackets out, I think 90, 91, 92 maybe. 3-point strut tower braces, we did in 86 and then in 87. Jacking rails, we were first with jacking rails. And because the Fox was so flimsy, we came up with a double cross subframe connector, which has been copied. Everything we do has been copied. The only thing that hasn't been copied on our chassis system is the matrix brace. And I'm not really sure why nobody's copied it. I mean, because it just works so well. It, triangulate, puts 4 triangulations per side into the middle of the Mustang, which is like a frame. But that's okay. I mean, just the list of things that we were first to market with is extensive. A Panner bar on the back of a Fox. We used the Panner bar not to center the axle because the axles are double splayed, which are self-centering. But I use the Panner bar to lower the roll center from it. If you do the math, the roll center on the Fox cars is like almost up to the trunk, which is way too high. That's why the back of the cars are so loose all the time. So we use the Panner bar. We mounted at the bottom of the differential to defeat the factory roll center and introduce a new roll center at the bottom of the diff, because where the Panner bar crosses the center line of the car is the roll center, and that made a huge difference. So I mean, we were first to market in that, and I have to sit down and go, this is a long list of things. But anyway, that's kind of how we got into the Mustang market, and then we moved from Omaha to Indianapolis in '94. Omaha, Nebraska is a great city to raise kids, great place to live, for a Midwest town. But we thought for a fledgling sports car business, it was not the place. So we moved to Indianapolis, and we ended up with a small space on Gasoline Alley, which is just south of the Speedway. And then things went really well, and we moved into a bigger space. In fact, we had one of the bigger spaces on Gasoline Alley, and then kept going and kept building cars. I think there's something like around 500 serialized Kenny Brown cars out there, and it's not just Mustangs. We've done Camaros, Explorers, Expeditions, Durangos, Crown Vics. We've had a big Crown Vic business, and Marauders. We supercharged Crown Vics and Marauders. We were the first people to do that too. So anyway, I mean, that's kind of like a really, really, really short version of what I did. And then I had some health issues, so we decided to take some time off. And people, we kept getting Kara kept getting emails. People wanted my parts, so we kind of started getting back to it a little bit of time. And we got the parts business going again. And then one thing leads to another, and here we are back in Indianapolis. We did a short stint in Chicago with a company that we leased our products and brand to, that really didn't work out. So we moved back to Indy, where we got grandkids, plus we knew a lot of people in Indy. And then also of course, in 2011, my late son, Paul, won the Pirelli GTS championship. In fact, he didn't win it. He totally dominated. The interesting thing was that Ford was coming out with the Boss 302S, and Paul wanted to start the 11th season with the first race, and Ford could not provide a car in time. So we built our own. He was in California. I was in Chicago at the time, and we spent a lot of time on the phone, and he built that car. In fact, there was a video out there somewhere, and he built the race car in 30 days. But it took an immense amount of work and a lot of people. And I kind of coached him through the 2011 season. I mean, he kicked everybody's butt. He won 5 races, which tied Parnelli Jones' single season win record in the Boss Mustang. He led more laps than all the other competitors combined. So like I said, he didn't win. He just dominated that series. And he ran most of the last bunch of races with rewards weight, maximum rewards weight. Rewards weight is, if you win a race, they add, some weight. And if you have 8 weight added and you finish like beyond 5th or something, then they'll take weight out. So it's kind of like they put it in there to kind of help balance the competition. Well, Paul was running with maximum rewards weight, which is 230 pounds. Adding 230 pounds to a race car is just huge. But we didn't slow him down. To give you an idea, he had the champ. All he had to do was start the second to last race. I think it may have been in Laguna. I can't remember. All he had to do was start the second to last race, and he won the championships, all championships, driver, team, and manufacturers. You can't hold him down. But with 230 extra pounds, it's really hard to it's really hard to qualify well. So he was qualified, well, I can't remember where, back maybe 7th or 8th back there. And he's so good. He drove all the way through the field and he caught up to the guy that was leading the race. And on the straightaway, he bumped into him and waved just to let him know he was there. And he didn't really need to pass him. He just had to prove a point. So, and then that championship was done. Like I say, and I don't know if anybody's had such a dominant performance in SCCA Pro Motorsports. So, but then of course, everyone knows he got cancer and passed away the next year. So after that, I was really reluctant to do any racing. I did what I was doing. I did some short little consulting things. I helped a team, always evolving racing. They had 3 Boss S Mustangs, and they were doing like NASA racing, and they wanted to go pro racing. So I helped them get into pro racing. That was actually Paul Walker's team at the time, and I helped them get into racing, help them get the cars changed over, and kind of let them by the hand through the first couple of races, which is a very eye-opening experience for them. People don't realize, they do like NASA or these club racing, and they jump into pro racing and they have no idea the extent of the leap. And I think they were absolutely blown away on how different it was. But that's what my job was, is to kind of shepherd them through. So I got them going, and then I had another team that I got going. Oh, the VP Racing. Steve Burns wanted to race a Mustang EcoBoost in the TC class, but Ford would not allow it. They said, "Well, we can't support that. We don't have any parts." We would have done it ourselves, except Ford refused to homologate the car, so we couldn't do that. They wants to run a V6, so they built the V6, and I helped them get through the first, I think, 4 races. Engineering consult thing to get them going. And Steve actually ended up doing really well. I mean, he really surprised me how well he ended up. And then after that, I just do, aside from, my normal business, I do, consulting here and there with racing stuff and other things. Suspension, all the, working on cars, suspension geometry, everything, I've learned myself. And that's what kind of really differentiates me from a lot of people out there, is I actually made my living out of my toolbox up until the early 90s. And then we had to, the business kind of grew, and I had to pay more attention on the, the managerial side. But I still, puts around, I still got my same old toolbox I've had for over 40 years. I use it just about every day. That's what kind of really separates me out, because I know cars. I know what every nut and bolt does. And I think that gives me a big advantage when it comes to engineering parts or, building cars. The cars I build, I don't think anybody builds a better car than I do. But you look at the background I have and how many cars I've built over the years, the experience I had to pour into that. Like I say, I'm kind of almost one of a kind in the aftermarket.
So what we'd like to do is share a little bit about Kenny Brown, what's happening with the company, Kenny Brown Performance, and how we're moving forward. And then we'd like to read some of the comments that were shared, because I think it's very healing for all of us to kind of read some of the memories that Kenny, had with people. To me, that's very important. And so we'll read those at the end. But what we were talking about while we were on mute is, first of all, I want to tell you about the company is continuing forward. Kenny really set up the company well for it to continue forward. And that's without him even knowing it. He's got a really strong staff, and just everything he has going forward. There's new products in the pipeline. We are going to continue on with Cars and Coffee, and I'll have Brad tell you about that in just a moment. We're going to be building tribute cars. We've already have the first one booked. And we'll be in future Cars and Coffee episodes, we'll be talking about that. It's a pretty cool, unique idea of how we're going to be doing that. 15-minute consults with Kenny Brown. Obviously, will not be with Kenny Brown, but we will be able to schedule with some of our staff. And if they cannot answer the question, they will not answer it. But we have a lot of technical knowledge just because we've been working with Kenny for so long. Also, Speed Therapy Academy will continue. We'll be playing some replays on that and doing live master classes. So there's a lot to look forward to coming forward. And so, Brad, why don't you tell them a little bit about what we're going to be doing for Cars and Coffee?
Well, so for Cars and Coffee, we're going to bring back the live shows. And the first one will be next Saturday at 10 a.m. And we will be live on Facebook on the Speed Therapy Society group page on Facebook, as well as YouTube. Mm-hmm. And our we have two guests that are going to join us next Saturday, and we're super excited about that. That's going to be Evan Smith and Jim Camposano, who have known Kenny both for well over 20 years. We're going to share some fun stories. We're going to talk about some great times that we had with Kenny at the racetrack and at the Kenny Brown High Performance Driving Schools. And then after that, we're going to bring in some other special guests in the following weeks, all people who knew Kenny, who spent a lot of time with him, worked with him very closely. And again, more fun stories and cool stories. And then we will continue forward from there, and we will have various special guests from around the industry who will talk tech, who will talk cars, who also will tell fond memories and stories of Kenny. And so we're really looking forward to the program, and we'll replay some tech videos and things like that were really popular as well. So we encourage everybody to continue to follow us, continue to join us on Saturday mornings, and we look forward to seeing all of you like we do every weekend.
And share with your friends too, because this is something Kenny was going to start, and I think we talked about in Cars and Coffee, starting to interview guest experts. So and he did a few in the past. So anyway, stay with us for that. The other thing I wanted to let you know is this coming Friday, we are having a private memorial service for Kenny for friends and family. We are also going to have two other events, the services. One is going to be in Minnesota. That's where I'm from. We're going to have friends and family there, and also anybody else that would like to attend. We'll probably have it on a Zoom call, so you can watch it remotely if you'd like. And then the final one, and this was what he really wanted. We're going to have a public event, hopefully at Watkins Glen. Still need to work through the process. He would like his ashes spread at Watkins Glen. So I don't know if that's legal or not, but
we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah, but we're going to have an event there, a track event, and have everybody there, have a big banquet like we used to do. So it should be a big event. We'll obviously let you know that it's going to probably be in the fall or the beginning of next year. So we hope you can attend or plan on attending that. So now let's just read some of the comments. Kenny, I don't know, it was really hard, his passing, and I'm not going to go into details about that, but he was fighting and he did not want to go. His goal was he had one final car program that he wanted to do, and that was the Heritage Car Programs. And so anyway, we're still working on that. Maybe we'll bring that to fruition, but that's what he wanted to do. He said, I have one car left to build, and that was the 6970 Mustang and the Camaro Heritage cars. They were brand new, state-of-the-art cars underneath with the brand new bodies of 6970 Mustang and Camaros. So it's a really cool program, and he was working on it. It's like halfway or more developed. Mm-hmm. So he's left it in a good place for us to carry on. But anyway, that's what his wish was, and he was really fighting hard to work towards that. He was a fighter. So anyway, let's read some of these comments before I start crying. So anyway, and we appreciate you sticking around for this too. Sean Kirkle said he worked for Kenny in Omaha. It wasn't for a long time, but at a time I'll never forget, learning a lot and really appreciate that opportunity. Thank you, R.I.P. Ken. Sean, I'm not sure if I was there at the time. I started working for Kenny in 1989. Yeah, and Maggie Reynolds, which is Steve Hannon. I said, I love the phone calls. I learned a lot. Kenny shared his knowledge and adapted you into his racing family. Maggie and I felt proud to be a part of the Kenny Brown family. Steve, thank you so much. Steve actually is building a full Kenny Brown suspension, Kenny Brown bear brakes on his car.
He has a GT 500. He's putting the complete AGS 4.5 suspension on the front, which is the front suspension, the rear suspension, including the K-Link. He's upgrading the brakes. He's just doing a host of things.
Yeah,
so
doing cooling. Yeah,
it'll be a lot like the old Ruby car.
Yeah,
so
yeah, it will
that'll be a fun car once he gets it done.
And then we also have Connie off. Thanks, Connie. I'm so happy you're there. So thank you very much. Very special man. Robert Johns, he was one of our Speed Therapy Academy members. He was in the first Speed Therapy Academy. If it wasn't for Kenny in these videos, as well as the Speed Therapy Academy, I'd be lost looking for parts and likely picking parts that would be a waste of money. Thanks for Kenny. I have the tools and knowledge to finish my track car. Oh, Robert, that was very nice. One thing Kenny did with his 15 minutes, and we're going to continue, is we put together a build plan for you. So what he always liked to do is find out who you were, how you wanted to, what you wanted to do with your car, how you drove your car, kind of took in consideration your budget. And he'd put a step-by-step plan together that you could follow. You could do it all at once or in steps. So we will continue that. And that's what Robert's referring to as well, I think. Oh, Robert Valenti, rest in peace, Kenny. I will miss your advice and support. Oh, thank you, Robert. Kenny joined, we built a whole Kenny Brown serialized car for Robert Valenti, and Bob, we know him as Bob, and he, after it was built, Kenny went out and spent a weekend with him, kind of teaching him how to drive the car and how to set it up and all that stuff. It was a really good experience for Kenny and for Bob. Jay Myers, so he's another Speed Therapy Academy member. I had the pleasure of sharing an evening and dinner with Kenny and Carrie last summer, an evening I will never forget.
Yeah, and Jay purchased a Kenny Brown serialized Cobra conversion car that is a super hot car. So we're looking forward to continue working with Jay, getting him on track with that car. And he's a faithful, loyal attendee every week when we do the Speed Therapy Academy, and he's just been a great help to us. So we're super happy to have him in the family. And then we have Kobe as well.
You want to try reading it?
Yeah.
You want me to? Brad forgot his glasses. That's why I'm doing all the reading.
Yeah.
You can read the names and I'll read the comments.
Okay.
I think we would, this is from Kobe. I think we would all like to schedule a 15-minute consult with Kenny. Yeah. That is so
so
true.
we are continuing the 15-minute consults. So, fortunately, Kenny entrusted me and Carrie and really everyone around us with a lot of knowledge. And so I've been spending a lot of time chatting with people who've scheduled 15-minute consults. And I'm continuing to do what Kenny would expect me to do, which is put them on the right path.
So we still want to continue to work with all of you. That was one of Kenny's passions, was sharing his knowledge with other people. And that's why we set up, he set up Cars and Coffee and the Speed Therapy Academy. And he also did a number of workshops that we'll be replaying for everybody. Fred Francher, his car is here in the shop. He has a Shelby GT. Having raced in Formula Ford during that time period, Kenny's name was well known. I have followed his accomplishments for years, and that's why my Shelby is currently in his shop for his complete update. Rest in peace, Kenny. Thank you, Fred. That was so sweet. Fred is also on every Saturday on Cars and Coffee, so we enjoy seeing him there.
And we have Jim Jewell.
When I was a teenager, I visited the Omaha shop. I think I got walked away with
some brochures.
Oh, yeah, you can read it. You want to read it?
Yeah. So he walked away with some brochures on the Kenny Brown Outlaw Mustangs, which was a series of Fox body Mustangs that Kenny built that were absolutely awesome. I think it was Car and Driver or Road and Track who said that those cars had more performance than Carroll Shelby ever dreamed of. And man, you can't imagine the hate mail they got after they made that statement, but it was true. He built the baddest Mustangs of that era. And so that was a great thing. But he also says that one of his friends' dad, Virgil Smith, I'll say, so Virgil, that takes us back quite a number of years. So he had a 1969 Mustang, and he had a friend that had a 71 Mach 1 Mustang, and they ended up buying Vortec supercharged Outlaw cars, and those cars both ended up in magazines. Virgil's car was pretty famous, and they ended up drag racing that car, and that car turned out to be a 9-second car. So that was a pretty cool car. And Sean Kirkle, he remembers Virgil, of course, so he was working with Kenny at the time as well.
So I think I might share just a little sneak peek about the tribute cards. What do you say?
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah, let's do
anyway,
that.
so the tribute cards, this just kind of came around one of we have somebody we're working with right now that wants a everybody knows Ruby. He wants to recreate Ruby. So we're kind of what we're going to do. We have a lot of people that want to recreate some of Kenny's iconic cars. Like so the tribute car will be for the Fox body will be an Outlaw Mustang. When we get into SN95s, we'll recreate a red rocket car. All of Kenny's cars have names. And obviously the Cobras will recreate Kenny's CSR cars, Cobras. And then when you get the S197, we'll kind of recreate the Ruby car. And then also for
Maryland.
the S550 is the Maryland car. So we have a couple of people that are looking at the Tribute Maryland car. And we have one person that has already signed on for a Ruby car, tribute car, and then we have another person looking at a tribute car too. So if you're interested in that, just give us a call.
And we're also coaching a build of an S550. It's a 2016 Roush RS3 Mustang that is going to be a lot like Ruby. So we're going to be shipping all the parts to New Zealand that this guy needs to sort of recreate that whole package. And then so let's read some more comments. We have Tim Allen. I'll let you read this.
Okay, Tim.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
We love you.
Tim is another one of our Speed Therapy Academy members. It seems like the Speed Therapy Academy members, I mean, we love everybody and our customers, but we get to know them so well and know a little bit about them and their family and their cars. Excuse me. When I first bought his car in 94, my stock 86 didn't really do anything very well. It didn't slow, stop, or turn with any confidence. But that said, it's not stock anymore, and I can now see the light. Thank you, Kenny Speed Therapy Society, and to Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Academy. But would sure like to make it a true Kenny Brown car. When I first bought it, it was an automatic GT running on 7 cylinders with a banged up front end. However, low miles and no rust. It was, and Tim, it runs out. But I know you were telling us about your car, and I know how enthused you are to get it back. Maybe we can have you. We'll talk about maybe having you a Outlaw tribute car. So we can talk about that later. Jim Jewell again.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you read that because I need a sip of water.
Well, after Kenny left Omaha, so Kenny's son stayed in Omaha, and he had a company called HP Motorsports, and he also built Mustangs as well, sort of carrying on the tradition there in Omaha as Ken made his way to Indianapolis. And so when he was finally able to purchase a Mustang, of course, Paul really helped him out. He put subframe connectors on it, and he did 15-minute consults with Kenny. And he, the first 15-minute was when he had his 2013 Boss 302, which is a Laguna Seca edition. He was sitting in Wendy's having lunch. The second consult he had was after he bought his current 2019, which is it's a 2019 Mustang GT. It was a Performance Pack 2 car, and so he learned a wealth of things from Kenny and got a lot of great knowledge, and that really helped him plan what type of upgrades he was going to do through that consult. So that was the beautiful thing about Kenny is he was a great teacher, a great educator. For me, he was the ultimate mentor and like a father to me. And really, he's helped just hundreds and hundreds of Mustang owners go down the right path so that they don't make bad decisions. And he was a wealth of knowledge, as most of you know. And then we have
Greg Drake.
It's Greg Drake, yeah, posing as Pamela Drake, his wife. So he says in the first Cars and Coffee that he ever watched, Kenny talked about roll center, which he knew. But he went so much farther with the technical side of suspension, and Greg's an alumni member as well. So he got quite the education on suspensions, geometry, really the in-depth. But and he said that he realized how much he didn't know, and how much Kenny did know. But now Greg knows a lot because he spent 16 weeks with Kenny, going through the academy, and he still continues to join us. And the beautiful thing about the academy is all of the alumni members can continue to join as we do new academies. So the academy just keeps growing. We have more attendees. And then the other beautiful thing is that people like Greg and Tim and Steve Calistini, and Brian West, and really everybody that's an alumni member, they join into the academy. They add some input, which helps me out tremendously as I carry on. And to listen to them talk to new students, it's amazing the wealth of knowledge that they gained when they went through the academy. And so they're almost little mini versions of Kenny Brown themselves. Mm-hmm. And it's really just so nice to see the impact that has made.
And Robert John says he's still making a living out of his toolbox. Part of the reason he took the class, I remember, because I signed him up, is he wanted to learn more so he could take Kenny's knowledge and carry it on with his customers. And I'm sure that's what he's doing. Okay, now here's where I'm reading the comments. No, we have
sound. A lot of people saying that we have no sound.
So sorry about that.
And, if you guys can read lips, then I guess you were in luck during that brief time period until Carrie and I figured out that we were on mute still. Yeah. So we apologize for that. But
and Eric Lehigh says, we absolutely love the Thunderbird that Kenny built. It's a blast to drive. And we're going to be having Doug Killian, Eric, talking about the short wheelbase Thunderbird.
And here's another thing too. We may have one of these short wheelbase Thunderbirds coming back into our shop here in Indianapolis very soon. I've been talking with Jeff Jacobucci, who actually owns the very first short wheelbase T-Bird that Kenny and Doug Killian actually built together. It's a red car, and Jeff is an interesting guy. He also has, and this is something that a lot of people don't know, is that Doug and Kenny built short wheelbase Lincoln Continentals. And so Jeff actually has one of the original, maybe the only one, I don't know, but he has a Lincoln Continental short wheelbase car and a short wheelbase T-Bird. So we're talking with him now, and we look forward to hopefully getting that back in. And of course, if we do, we're going to make videos and post pictures of it. And so that'll be fun, and we're really looking forward to that. So hopefully that works out for us.
Okay, so we're going to get back to it. As you know, you can probably tell, Brad and I like to talk. So so we talk a little bit more.
And we're living together right now for the next few weeks.
Yeah.
So
Brad's staying with me. So he came in. He lives in Florida, and he came into town. So we're going to get some work done and kind of get the company set up a little differently.
Connie Adney said that she couldn't hear us. Connie, doesn't she work for the Ford dealership out here with Bridget? So she works with another one of our
Bridget?
Yeah, she works with another one of our coworkers, Bridget. And so Connie's husband, Dave Adney, he worked with us for quite a while as well, and he has an exact replica of the Penske Camaro that Dave Donahue drove. And that's a really cool car. So they've always been like family to us, Connie and Dave. So they're really nice people.
Okay, so just real quick, I have to read this. So Greg Drake said, lip reading exercise. This is when we had no sound.
Yeah.
Tim Allen said, oh no, you guys are going to be so disappointed. And then Kobe said, won't be a Cars and Coffee without technical difficulties. Isn't that so true?
That is true.
So true. Just real briefly, I'm going to tell you what happened. We were recording, going to do Cars and Coffee from my home, and we had everything set up, and then the internet went down. So at 20 till we left? 20 till 10, we got in the car, loaded it up, came down here, and set up, and that's why we were a little bit late.
And thank you to the Indianapolis Police Department and the Indiana State Troopers who were not on 465. or 65 at the time that we were driving 90 miles an hour up the highway to get to the office where we actually had good internet service.
So, and that's,
So,
yeah, that's
you.
why it was a
Thank
little
you.
bit spotty when we got on. We were a little nervous. So anyway,
Yeah.
Mark Kaiser, oh, so good to hear from you. You need to give me a phone call, Mark. I can't find the words to properly thank you for creating the Marauder for me and opening a door to a world of fun such that I never thought possible. So true. Mark had a Mercury Kenny Brown Marauder, and
didn't he have two at one time? Maybe.
I don't think
Okay,
Mark. Maybe he did. Mark, let us know if you had two, or who was that had two. I know that
Mark goes back a long ways.
Yeah.
He bought one of the original. When we built the Marauder, we were just going to do 10 Signature Series Marauders, carbon fiber stuff. I mean, really cool cars. And so Mark bought one of those first 10 cars. So he's got a rare one for sure.
Mark, please make sure you give me a call this next week. Also, Steve Calistini, yay! He is another one that's was in the first Speed Therapy Academy, and he attends everyone. And he is kind of turning into a little bit of a mentor for the other people. So anyway, he says, good morning from Oregon City. Wow, what an amazing story. Thanks, Carrie and team. Kenny Brown, for all of your help you've been to me. Kenny was the real deal, and I'll miss him dearly. Oh, Steve
has been a huge asset to us. He is my co-host now when we do Speed Therapy Academy sessions.
So you kicked me out? You kicked me out?
Well, he doesn't look nearly as good as Carrie does, but he's a wealth of knowledge. He's an airplane guy, and he's been in the airplane business, working on airplanes, flipping airplanes, surveying airplanes, and so he's become a wealth of knowledge, and he's a great co-host for me. So thank you to Steve.
Yes,
you're
Steve,
such a
you're
valuable
wonderful
asset to our family, and we love you.
And next week is Arrow, and he's going to be participating in that.
Yes.
We need to talk about that afterwards, getting him some
Yep.
info. Julie is my BFF. I grew up with her. She was my high school best friend, and we still continue together, and she's helped me through Ken's illness and his death. So she is truly a best friend forever. Thank you, Julie. Bill Haney, he is another Speed Therapy Academy. Wow, we have a lot of Speed Therapy Academy people here today. Very nice tribute to Kenny. Tim White, I am lucky to live in Omaha. The help from Kenny and Paul as I started autocrossing, then moved into club racing. My first autocross car, spent quite a bit of time in his shop. Working, Frank and Paul got me
started in club racing.
And Paul's help with HP Motorsport was invaluable. Thanks, guys. Still running an American sedan. Woohoo!
Awesome.
Yeah,
that's a tough
great.
class to run into.
I recognize your name, Tim. Sean Kirkle. Yes, you were. I really enjoyed working with you too.
Yep.
Connie, love you, Carrie. Remember the first time I met Kenny? He intimidated me.
Kenny was very intimidating the first time people would meet him. My wife would totally agree with her. She wasn't sure if Kenny liked her or not, but he's an interesting character and an interesting personality. So, but yeah, occasionally he was intimidating for me the first time that I met him.
He had a mouth that went like this, and when he'd smile, it would go like this.
Yeah.
So,
kind of like me. I got my smile from Kenny.
So he always looks like he's not happy, but he really is. Oh, Roy. Oh, it's okay to cry. I am. Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And Calvin Goring. So he lives up in Connecticut now, but Calvin was a lot like me. He started following a dream when he was young, and he had a Mustang, and he bought some Kenny Brown parts, and we were looking for help, and he agreed to move over from New York and help us out for quite a while. And he really became like family to us. So we love Calvin. We still talk to him pretty regularly. He always joins us, and he's just a great guy. So thank you, Calvin.
Thank you, Calvin.
It's always good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And Tim Allen. He says he looks forward to more Kenny Brown stories, and he's sure that there'll be many more surface over the coming months, and there certainly will. Carrie and I both have tons of stories to tell, but it's just we need to remember them. And so every now and then, something jogs our memory, and then we think, oh, there's a great story. So, and he says he doesn't think he says, don't think anyone thought we'd ever lose him so soon, but he's got such a following of great people. So happy to have known him. Long live the Academy and the 15-minute consults. And thank you, Tim. And
Thank you,
we
Tim.
always look forward to seeing you. It's always such
Yeah.
a treat to talk to you.
Oh, and then there's Bob Bush. Bob, I considered Kenny a friend for helping me set up my car and still room for improvement, and look forward to continue to build. Miss him dearly. Oh, Bob, that's so sweet. Say hi to Wendy for me too. Sean Kirkle, my deepest condolences, Carrie. You were an absolute sweetheart to me, and I wish I could have stuck around longer. I'm going to have to jog my memory, Sean. I recognize your name now. It's coming back. Dave Robinson, really enjoyed the recap on Kenny's story. Would have loved to have met him, but sadly never did. Cars and Coffee was part of my weekend since it started. Glad you were going to keep it going. Learned a lot from Kenny, and I plan on getting my Mustang suspension sort with Kenny Brown parts. Rest in peace, Kenny. You are missed for sure.
Just give us a call, Dave. We're happy to help. So Carrie and I are definitely here for you, and we'll keep you on the straight and narrow.
Joe's another Speed Therapy Academy, and we've known him before that too. I really enjoyed the Academy. Getting acquainted with all of the other members was unbelievable. Kenny really helped me learning the best lines to drive on track. He used to give you some pointers, didn't he, Joe? So I'm like, okay, Joe, you need to use your real estate on track. Yep,
Joe is a perfect example. Joe, when we were building 2000 Cobra R race cars, which we built a lot of them, it was crazy. You could come into, there was a time when you could come into Kenny Brown's shop on Gasoline Alley in Indianapolis. And I can remember walking in the mornings, and we would have 5 or 6 2000 Cobra R's in there that were literally being completely gutted and turned into track cars. And anyone who knows about the 2000 Cobra R knows that they were kind of collector cars. So a lot of people bought them, put them in garages, and didn't really do much with them, or they took them to the car show, and they were definitely the big dog on campus. But we had several customers who didn't really care about that. They just wanted to take their 2000 Cobra R, turn it into a real race car. And Kenny Brown was the man who built quite a few of them. So Joe had one of those, but he's had other cars. He had a Boss 302. He's currently got a GT350. And Joe is like family to us. He's been with us for years. He's been a very loyal customer, and he definitely learned a lot from Kenny and the Academy, because I can tell you, I have seen some videos this past year and a half of Joe driving on track, and he took everything that Kenny said to him during their coaching sessions. Kenny would go through his videos and coach him, as he went through each lap, each corner, and Joe definitely picked up on that, because I've seen his videos of late, and he is using all of the racetrack. He's hitting all of the apexes perfectly. And I was fortunate enough to spend a day with him at Daytona during the Audi event, where he was driving his car along with the Boss brothers. And man, that was a fun time. But I every now and then I see Joe at the track, or we'll run across each other, or if he's coming to Florida and he's going to run a track day, then you can sure bet that I'm going to be there with him. So
I told you guys we talk a lot.
Yeah.
So Dennis Boswell, did something happen to Kenny Brown? Yes, Dennis. Unfortunately, Kenny passed away a couple of weeks ago, and so this is kind of like just a little tribute to him. If you just came in, we should have this on YouTube and on Facebook. Kenny goes through a little bio on him. On himself, not knowing that it was going to be used after he passed. So it's really interesting, his history and how he grew his company. Let's see, Bill Haney. No one else in motorsports have shared their knowledge as much as Kenny. Totally agree. And that's
a fact.
And that's what he wanted to do. That's kind of his legacy. I think he built incredible cars. That's what his passion was, and obviously developed a lot of really cool parts out of that. But sharing his knowledge was what he was passionate about.
And that's what made him unique, because if you look in our industry, there's not a lot of people who are really wholeheartedly sharing all of their knowledge and doing it in the type of platforms that Kenny did. And the only person I can think of maybe that is similar would be Gail Banks, who's obviously in a slightly different industry because people know him for diesel trucks, but he does a really good job of sharing his knowledge.
He does a really good job.
And so that's one of the things that Kenny gave all of us was a lot of knowledge, and we have all of that recorded. So we're going to continue to let Kenny give his knowledge to the masses. We're just going to do it through YouTube.
Yep.
and other forms of social media. So
Okay, and then just real quick, we'll go through a few more here. Jack Sieber, R.I.P. Kenny. There's a hell of a race team in heaven now. Yep, Paul and Kenny are up there racing, aren't they?
Yeah.
Brian West, alumni are like little Kennys.
they are.
Does that mean we're brownies? Brian's a part of the Speed Therapy Academy, obviously, and he has such a great sense of humor. Oh, and KB Marauders, this is Chris and Gordon. They have 3 Kenny Brown cars. 2 are Mercury Marauders. That's probably who you're thinking
They have
about.
two Marauders.
Yeah, 2 Marauders.
One of them may be Marauder number 1, I think. I'm not sure.
I can't remember. Let us know. I can't remember what's now. I know they have 8, and I can't remember the other number. And Chris also had Kenny build her a GT, an S197 Mustang GT, which is just beautiful.
Yep, that's a silver or gray car, I guess. And there's some pictures of that floating around.
Oh, here it says the numbers right here.
Yeah.
We ran across Kenny's website in 2002. We ordered our Marauder and had it directly shipped to Kenny's shop. We were so impressed with our Marauder S8. We loved it so much that we purchased sight unseen second one, number 5, because we knew it would be a great car too. Then Kenny and Carrie built us our beast, wicked fast. That's what Kenny called it.
Yeah.
Wicked fast, of a Mustang that we love too. Thank you so much. We will miss Kenny.
That car was a supercharged car too, and they've done several track days with it.
Chris
so.
and Gordon, you need to give me a call at some point too.
Yeah.
Tim, that seems to be an absolute truth. He shared all of his gold he's discovered with us. Becky Drexler, she is a high school friend. I can't believe you stuck through this, Becky. So thank you. So fun listening to all these memories of Kenny. Becky, you are the best. Becky and Julie and I are very good friends. Paul Dondero, happy birthday.
Yes, it's Paul's birthday today.
Yeah.
He owns Rodney Dangerfield is what he names his car. So it's a V6, and he claimed that it never got any respect, and it probably didn't, but it gets a heck of a lot of a respect right now, because when a V6 Mustang passes you and your GT 500, it makes you have second thoughts about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. He says, thank you to Kenny and Rich for putting together a safe and fast Mustang. My nephew, son, and myself love going to the track. Thank you, Paul.
Yep, he's a regular at Road America. So if you see a V6 Mustang at Road America in your rearview mirror, that V6 might just pass you.
Okay, so this is getting a little long, but we're going to continue to go through all the comments because I think it's really healing for me.
We're getting close.
Yeah, but if you need to duck out, make sure you sign up for join the Speed Therapy Society, Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society group, because we'll be doing a lot of things in there that we don't do on the Kenny Brown Performance site. And if you want to share more memories or whatever, but that's where you'll find out a lot of information about what we're doing. So again, it's on Facebook. It's the Kenny Brown Speed Therapy Society Facebook group.
Just ask to join, and Bridget or I will let you in, and you can share stories, and there's a lot of good members of that group, and a lot of good information.
A lot of good tech
around.
information.
And if you go into the groups section, you can see all of the Kenny Brown or Cars and Coffee with Kenny replays, and then there's some other various technical resources in there. But we're going to work on that and spruce that up a little bit.
Yep.
Oh, and we have Owen. Look.
Yes, I know. Owen.
Yeah.
Owen worked with us in Chicago, and we won't mention the name of the company. So Owen was one of the highlights at that company. We partnered with a company in Chicago. Kenny was to develop products for them and for his product line and build cars up there. And then I was to run their marketing and our marketing program. And it just did not work out. The partnership was not good.
But Owen learned a lot from him. So it's so nice to hear from you.
Owen was wonderful. Hi, Owen. Good to see you. Marauders. Yeah. Okay.
Robert Johns. Good old Fireball Joe. Yeah.
Wendy.
Oh, we have Wendy. Yeah. Wendy, she spends a lot of time in flight trainers. So she's an expert pilot, and
she's kind of switched careers just as of late.
And we were trying to get her to join the academy, and I know she really wanted to, but I don't think the time dictated. And she says, I wish I could have attended the academy. Kenny was always so helpful when she called, and so Kenny spent some time on the phone with Wendy as well, and she's got Kenny Brown suspension on her car. She loves it, and her comments and her testimonials after she installed the parts were great. So we're going to continue to share her story as well. Yeah,
Wendy, just to let you know that we are going to continue on the Speed Therapy Academy. We have 3 sets of videos from Kenny doing the Speed Therapy Academy. So we will be replaying those and doing live master classes as well with industry experts.
Yeah, we're going to evergreen everything. So, and Sean He says, well, Carrie, if you remember that tall kid that worked in parts and ran parts and tires around town, that was him.
I remember
So,
now, Sean. How could I forget you?
Yeah, look
So
at this.
sorry
We have
about that.
Shelby Thompson too.
Yes.
Shelby worked for us. He was a technician in our shop, and Shelby was
In Indianapolis, yeah.
Yeah, here in Indianapolis. He was a great guy. He was a fun guy. So I really liked Shelby.
Yeah.
He was a cool kid. So he says he never was afraid to share his thoughts and ideas, and that certainly is true. So.
Okay, well, I guess that is the end of it.
So, it was Sergeant Mack
Yeah.
who bought Marauder #1. Sergeant Mack was retired police officer, captain, whatever.
Yeah.
He was pretty high up there in
Chicago.
Chicago Police Department. And we originally built Marauder #1 for I believe he was a corporate attorney. And he was also
Bill
up
Caro,
in Chicago. Yeah, Bill Caro was his name. And I have fond memories of hauling ass in his car. His car was the original media car. So that car went to all the magazines. It was in, well, I know it was in Car and Driver. I think they would have gotten the first exclusive on that. And that car was also featured in Auto Week magazine, and it was featured on Auto Week TV. And so at the beginning of the Marauder video, there's some idiot doing a big giant smoky burnout in front of the tower at Indianapolis Raceway Park, and that would be me. And we also had Brandon Bernstein, Kenny Bernstein's son, did the quarter-mile testing at Indianapolis Raceway Park. And so we all got to be on video together, and Bill drove the car around the road course, and we spent a whole day with the Auto Week TV crew, and I drove that car to Atlanta, and I got pulled over just on the other side of the bridge going through Cincinnati in what's called Hazard County, Kentucky. And unfortunately, I had left the office late, and I was hauling ass. And thank you to the Hazard County deputy sheriffs who reduced my ticket down to only 72 miles an hour in a 55-mile-an-hour zone. My wife was in the car with me. He pulled me over. This car had blacked out windows and Panther badges on it, so he probably thought that we were the CIA. But he promptly called me back to his car. And while I was there, he decided that he would call all of the deputies in the whole entire county to come and join us once he realized that in fact was the car that was on the cover of Car and Driver magazine. And of course, they all had to see it. So we were detained for about 45 minutes while they checked out under the hood and inside the car and everywhere else. But that was a fun story about Bill Caro's car. And that car ended up being on display at one of Pirelli's media launches, which is why we're driving the car to Atlanta. And so all the Ferrari guys loved that, but they did not want to race us. That's for sure. They were scared of that car. So,
well, this was a good comment to end
and then
with.
we have Bridget too. Yeah.
So it's been a pleasure to be a part of the Kenny Brown team. In the short time I knew Kenny, I learned so much. Love you, Carrie and Brad. His legacy will live on.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Bridget has been instrumental these past couple of years. She's really grabbed the social media side by the bullhorns, and she helps out with the academy. She
workshops. And
she helps out with the Cars and Coffee. So she's the great communicator that we have, that sends the message out and lets everybody know, and then reminds them before the show that we're going to be live or we're going to be doing an academy session. So thank you, Bridget, for all of your hard work. We really appreciate it.
So we it's hour and 37 minutes. Kenny would just be appalled that we lasted the song. He would say, guys, you need to.
Yeah. Kenny would be like, we've been on here an hour and 10 minutes. It's time for me to go to the grocery store. I got things to do.
So anyway, thank you so much for sharing all your thoughts. This means the world to me. And please, everybody, it's important to me personally that you stay in touch because you're a part of his history.
Yeah.
So please sign up for the Facebook, if you're on Facebook, Kenny Brown's Speed Therapy Society Facebook group. We'll be staying in touch through there. So anyway.
And thank you, everybody who stuck through the whole program today. I know an hour and 45 minutes is a lot out of your day, but we really appreciate it. And we appreciate everybody's support. We look forward to seeing everybody next Saturday at 10 a.m. on Cars and Coffee, where we'll have Evan Smith and Jim Camposano join us, and they're fun guys. It's a fun show, and we have spent a lot of very memorable times with those two at the racetrack, and Kenny
Look at
loved
this.
them. So
Robert Johns, we're all family.
yeah.
My girlfriends, Julie and Becky.
Yep. So
Thank you.
thank you to everybody. So we're going to go ahead and cut out for the day because we have more work to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got to go through old memories and things like that and get ready for a memorial service next Friday. So
love you all. And remember, we're going to have a public service celebration of life at Watkins Glen either later this year or beginning of next year, depending on track availability. So
we'll
anyway,
get it done. We'll let everybody know in advance so everybody can plan to make that haul all the way up to Watkins Glen. And we're going to have a fun day or two on track for sure. So
okay, love you
stay
all.
tuned.
Thank you.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you. Bye-bye.